Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 23. Tonight we're looking at Iggy Pop's 1977 debut, The Idiot. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Good. Excellent. How are you doing?
Oh man, burnt out, but we got some good beers tonight, so hopefully things are looking up. And it's fucking Friday instead of our usual Saturday, so
yeah, special Friday edition.
Yeah, special Friday edition.
Yes. Well, why don't you kick it off there? What are you drinking, the special beers?
Okay, so I'm trying out, I found a brewery called Tay Light Brewing. It is out of Port Coquitlam, BC, and this first one is a Freight Hoppin' West Coast IPA, 6.2% strong beer. And
cool can.
It's a killer can. It's kind of like graffiti on the side of a train, so hence the Freight Hoppin', because you're hopping freights. So yeah, it's really good. So
Tay Light, I've never heard of that brewery.
Yeah, I bought one of the 4-packs, so yeah, it's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a barrel-aged coconut imperial stout from the Russell Brewing Company.
Whoa.
Oh, nice.
In Vancouver, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. I just took a few sips right now, and it's super tasty. 7.8. I'm up in your categories of
welcome
percentage. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
It's reminiscent of that classic snow day at the beach, whatever that means again. So
that's a 7.8 comment right there.
7.8, yeah. And then I'm gonna go to a Bomber Brewing Local Heroes Double Pilsner.
Oh yeah, next. I used to drink a lot of that stuff when I first moved here.
Did you? Yeah, I've never had this before. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different breweries, I guess, that are kind of attached to this too. But it's a 7th year anniversary, amped up German style pill. So
nice.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to take a drive up to your neck of the woods there and check out your stores, because I'm running out of of new things. So and you seem to be finding some different cool stuff. So
yeah, like lots in 4-packs though too. Like I kind of just wish they were in singles, because sometimes I maybe don't want to try 4 of them, and maybe I'm not gonna like it. Usually I do, but. Yeah, I don't know. I would just rather singles, and I can just buy whatever I want. But
well, it's nice. It's nice with this Tay Light stuff, because they've got a 4-pack, but there's 4 different in the pack, so it's like a multi-tester pack of 4, which I don't know. I think more should do that, definitely.
Yeah. All 4 are the same. I'm just not. If I don't like it, I don't want to drink 4 of them. But
I'm always tempted to just like rip that can out of the 4-pack, walk up there, and be like, "There's a barcode on it, so."
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be $10.95.
Yeah.
For one? Get out of here. What you got?
I got a Carmelite Triple, Belgian Trappiste. Yeah, it's a good one. I've noticed you guys always say the alcohol percentage, and I don't think I do, but got you guys beat. This is an 8.4, motherfuckers.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a tasty beer too. It definitely doesn't taste like an 8.4, but I'll be talking like it's an 8.4 in about 5 minutes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Keep going on that.
I'm gonna
pump up the fun level.
Wash that down with a Hoyne Dark Matter, which I haven't had in a very long time, but excited to drink.
Where's that?
Hoyne? I think they're out of Victoria, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Oh, they don't. There's nothing on here. Either. Fuck, caught with my pants around my ankles right now. Hoyne. They're BC for sure.
It's always on there.
Yeah. Let's just do a quick fucking search. Victoria, yeah. There you go. They have a couple of really nice beers, and their dark matter is like really popular around here. A lot of people like it, so yeah, it's a good one.
Can I see the bottle? Yeah. Can I just see the label on that?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
What's it? I can see the writing. Is it just kind of like a green mist,
it's
or
like
what is
the, Aureole Borealis, the Northern Lights,
Aurora Borealis,
yeah. And
Northern Lights,
Oreo Borealis,
and like
Oreos.
A constellation of that spells out dark matter. So
cool,
pretty good. I think this is a porter, but let's see here. Dark matter is. I'm like, oh yes, I am legal.
Just barely.
I don't know. Oh, it's a stout. Oh, it's not as roasted as a stout. I don't know what the fuck it is. It's good. It's dark. I wanted something dark and strong, so. And it's a 5.3.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Iggy Pop, the idiot.
Yes. So this album has been in the talks for what, 2 years now? I think this was the very first one we spoke about doing when this whole
about this album
podcast idea started in your garage.
It's true, Mike. Yeah. I remember I hadn't seen you in probably 5 years, and we were going somewhere in your truck. I drove down from Kelowna, I think, drove over from Kelowna. And you're like, man, I've been listening to Iggy Pop, the Idiot, like all the time. It's so good. And that was like, when was that? When we did the EP 2 years ago? This June.
Yeah,
2 years ago in June?
Pretty close anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, this is a late bloomer on my top 10 list, right? Like, every other one of my top 10s, maybe with the exception of this and another one, I've always had, right?
Yep.
Like, they've always kind of been in my life, right? But this one is just a last probably 3 years find, and I feel like the amount that I've listened to it has probably made up for that time between the ages of, like, I don't know, 10 when you started maybe listening to music by yourself up to, age 40. So yeah, just listen to this album a ton. And it was funny because I remember hearing lots about it, and I heard, always people talking about Iggy Pop, the Idiot. And I'll be honest, all I knew was Lust for Life. That's pretty much all I knew, right? Like, at that time, I had never really dove into Iggy Pop. I'd listened to the Stooges, but Iggy Pop solo stuff, I was like, there's so many albums here. I don't even know where to start. Like, kind of just got scared off a little bit from it, right? But I was sitting in the Vancouver airport lounge, and I was like, all right, I'm going to throw this on, waiting for my plane, going back home, right? Taking the plane to Kelowna. And I threw it on, and I was like, what's going on? Like, what is this, right? Like, it hit me totally differently than I guess anything I had listened to during that period, right? So I remember I downloaded it like right in the airport lounge, because when I still had Wi-Fi, right? So I'm like, I downloaded it right to my phone, and I listened to it on the entire flight home, all the way back to the drive from Kelowna back to Salmon Arm. Like, I just had it on like the entire time, and then like the next morning it was on. It was just like continually on. And I don't know if you guys do this or not, but I do this a ton, where I will just listen to an album non-stop.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if you guys do that, but I can't get enough of it, and I'll just throw it on, maybe out of like laziness and boredom, maybe a little bit, but at the same time, it's just like, it's a go-to that I'm like, I like this album right now, I'm just gonna throw it on nonstop, right? So that's kind of what I did, and I don't know what it is about this album. That's the thing, like, trying to kind of collect my thoughts about what to say about this album, but there's just something about it, like, in 38 minutes, it's just wrapped in this nice little package that is just like, so loaded, it feels like that, but so simple and so repetitive at the same time.
Yeah.
That it just makes it so good to me. I'm not even sure what I can tell you about why I just absolutely love this album. But I mean, I think it starts with the cover. I think it starts with the fact that David Bowie is all over this thing.
Yeah. It's probably one of my favorite Bowie albums.
Definitely, man. But I don't think that like I don't think Iggy Pop will hide that.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
like, I don't think
it's straight up. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I just think it's actually kind of genius to be able to say this is something that I want to try and I want to do, but I'm not the right guy for the job, but this guy is.
Yeah.
Right. So come on down to Berlin and to France, and we're gonna record an album and go, bar hopping and disco
I loved
hopping.
how they moved to Europe to get off of drugs.
To get off,
Right?
They want to get off smack, so they move to Berlin. Good job.
Yeah, right. Like there's no drugs there during the late 1970s. Just you're good, right? And two guys coming in with a lot of money and a lot of power, and it's just like, I don't know. It just kind of clicked, right? But I just like that idea of being able to he used Iggy Pop as the vehicle to what he wanted to get done, but David Bowie could never do that. You know what I mean? David Bowie can do a ton of stuff, but he couldn't do it the way that Iggy Pop did it on The Idiot. And he just kind of used him as that guinea pig and as that vehicle.
Right.
And I don't know how many people have done that before, but I think it's kind of genius.
You think that Bowie was using Iggy Pop as a means to like test out a bunch of shit?
Not necessarily test out a bunch of stuff. From a bunch of stuff that I read, Iggy Pop was kind of a guinea pig for basically a Bowie project. So Bowie was getting tired of his cycle of changing up his art every album kind of thing. So he almost wanted to just take a break and try and mold and produce someone else's album for the most part. And I mean, like he's all over that, like all over that album. I mean, he's got, what was the instrument here? It's so David Bowie or Iggy Pop has vocals, David Bowie has keyboards, synthesizer, guitar, piano, saxophone, xylophone, backup vocals, and production. So he did everything. Yeah.
Kinda. Right. And like wrote the music. Like the general consensus that David Bowie wrote all the music and Iggy Pop wrote all the lyrics. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the general consensus of it, right? And I mean, you can tell. I mean, I don't know obviously Iggy Pop as a his musical side, but I mean, this sounds like David Bowie to me, right? Like
totally.
That album sounds like David Bowie, and I knew that going in when I first listened to it that this is David Bowie all over it, but like. Yeah, like the saxophone, like that, like those sax solos are all David Bowie. Yes, that's David Bowie on there, right? Like, it's just, it's a crazy album. Like from that side of it, it's just something different than I had ever heard, and a totally different approach, which I thought was kind of refreshing. I don't know, you know what I mean? And it's just the album tone is just, it's funky, it's dark. It's
very 1977 low
post-punk,
but it's very dark Berlin druggy, that kind of a thing. I mean, how you might imagine it. It's like it's definitely a Stitch in Time.
But is that the beginning of that Stitch in Time? I think because a lot of people, what I've read just very briefly is like Joy Division kind of got their vibe off of that, and like. You know,
I think that's probably where everything
this
popped
is
off,
like
man.
Him transcending punk rock, and like that's so punk rock, you know, to be done with it in 1977 and to do this, which is something.
Yep.
Yeah, like you said, it's really nice. It's really cool listening to you guys explain it because I'm just like, yeah. I just listened to the album about an hour ago, and I'm like, yeah. It is all of this stuff that you guys are talking about, but it seems like it was just groundbreaking in every sense of the matter, right? And like,
well, you've got this guy who is like self-mutilating himself on stage and doing all this crazy shit through in the Stooges, right? And he's been doing this for so many years. And then all of a sudden, David Bowie takes him under his wing, and he comes out with his very first solo record, which you're probably all expecting to be wild and crazy, and I'm going to cut myself up, and
Completely different.
And it's not like that at all,
And it's also like like you can tell there was a switch in the drugs.
When I club
when you have the certain energy of the Stooges, and then when he gets over there, it's a complete different thing.
And his vocal stylings, just like you said there, Dane, are awesome on this album. I just love how he can go from like absolute deadpan and like robotic to like screaming out, like, I think of like two instances on like Mass Production or even on like Sister Midnight when he's like, "Can you hear me at all?" It's just this awesome growl, and I'm like, it's so good. But in other songs, he's like,
he stripped down
"Hey,
Dum
baby,"
Dum Boy.
yeah. It's just like you kind of
Dum Dum Boys,
it, right?
totally.
Yeah. Oh, I love the opening of Dum Dum Boys. It's just so good too, right?
Okay, so set this straight for me.
Dave.
Oh, he's dead. Oh, he's in jail. Oh, he's still living with his mother.
Yeah. He's gone straight.
He's gone straight. He's
So
back living with
this
his mother.
album was recorded. Okay, so I'm just going to cut to the chase here. So China Girl is on this album, which really surprised me. Iggy Pop did that song first. I had no idea.
Iggy Pop and David Bowie wrote and recorded China Girl together, and then what was it? In 76. Well, they recorded in 76, so this was just before the David Bowie's Berlin trilogy, which is Low, Heroes, and Lodger.
Yeah,
and for me, it seems like the trilogy would have been, The Idiot, and then Low, and then Heroes. Like they're just all in that same damn year. They were all dropped, right?
and Lust for Life. Lust for Life is in there too, right? Like they recorded Lust for Life like months
released
after
the
they
same
did.
year. Yeah,
Yeah,
all
The Idiot,
77.
right? And a totally different feel on that album.
Yeah,
Right.
Like totally different.
Fun
right?
album.
It is.
From a dark Berlin to something fun.
Yeah.
Passenger.
But
And then he redid China Girl. What was it? 83?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
When
in
Bowie
the 80s,
released
yeah.
his version. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And he took Sister Midnight too and reworked it into Red Money.
yeah, he changed all the lyrics.
Changed all the lyrics, but like the groove and the everything is exactly the same. He just took it and went with it. So he's like, he took two songs off that album and was just like, I wrote these. I'll take these now. Thank you. Like, and nobody really seemed to mind. It was just like, here's, I'm going to redo this song that Iggy Pop did, which is my song, but I'm going to redo it in my style and become one of my biggest hits of all time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no big deal. Like, it blows my mind. But yeah, just the different. I like the highs and the lows of this album too. Like I said, like just the way he, even on like nightclubbing, right? Like he'll do that like campy, nightclubbing. Like he'll do the, that kind of schmaltzy style. But then the next time he's like nightclubbing.
Yeah.
We're nightclubbing. And it's just like, okay, what's he on now, right? Like it's just that hook, that bass and snare hook that's just so, and I read too, I didn't know this, that David Bowie wanted to switch it out. That was just a placeholder for a real drum kit. They didn't have a drum kit in the studio, so they had this old Roland drum machine, so they put it on and that was the sound. And then David Bowie wanted it off and Iggy Pop's like, no, you got to leave it. It's got to be like that, right? So
And now it's iconic.
Oh, it's like, it's so simple though. That's the thing, right? Like I said at the beginning, there's so many repetitive and simple things on this album that, it just makes it kind of makes way for the rest of everything else that needed to come through vocally, the feel of that like Berlin cracked out feel of, clubbing on a Saturday night or on a Tuesday night. But I just like too, it was this back and forth between David Bowie and Iggy Pop where they would just either be passed out or gone home. and he'd be like, is Iggy gone? Like, okay, great, now we can do some shit, right? And then it's just like get behind there and start doing whatever, and then vice versa, right? Like, is David Bowie gone? Like, I got to do some stuff on here. So they didn't work together very much from what I've read, but when they did, they kind of came together on these ideas and then just went off on their own thing. It was like a duet kind of project. So,
Right.
But it was kind of like, and I kind of got a sense of like the very first time I listened to it, it was kind of like Leonard Cohen a little bit. Like the vocals is like kind of like Leonard Cohen style.
That vibe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like kind of talking it, kind of speaking it kind of thing. But I guess I like the idea of David Bowie hanging out with Iggy Pop too, right? In the late 70s. I don't know what it is, but like, just the two of them being friends and like hanging out just seems like kind of the oddest couple ever. But not at the same time, right? And all their drug stories and everything, right? Like, he takes them on tour for like station to station, takes Iggy Pop on tour. They get busted for pot in Rochester, New York. And Iggy Pop doesn't have any money, so David Bowie has to buy him a suit so he can go to court, right? Like, you can't make that shit up. It's just good, right? Like, but yeah, I don't know. It's just something about that album. I guess the darkness of it, the vibe of it, the feel of it. Musically, I don't know if there's anything like spectacular on it for me, right? Like there's no like standout kind of instrument or, other than the vocals, I guess.
Or
and
Bowie on the sax.
Maybe Bowie on the sax is so good. You can't deny it. It's fantastic. But yeah, I don't know. It's not like you're like, oh, the bass on this song or on this album is unreal, or the drums or the guitar. It's just kind of like it's there.
All the parts that were there were exactly where they needed to be. Nothing had to really shine, and it fits the songs, which is really cool. I mean, I like how stripped down it is, and it's not over thought out, and it's not, let's have a screaming guitar solo for 3 minutes, and like you go back to other rock albums of that era, and it has more parts than it needs, and this is so simple. And even if you look at this album, it's so basic, and the flow is so smooth, and it doesn't have a lot of changes in it where there's no standout chorus parts.
Nope.
In it, like there's no chorusy hooks. It's just this is the song, and the whole song just flows, or the whole album flows. So,
I think so. Yeah. I went a little bit deeper on it because I wanted to know why the album was called The Idiot. So because I had no idea. So it's from Dostoevsky's novel, The Idiot. Yeah. And there's a quote, or not a quote, but like I've never read this or had no idea about it, but it's a young man's goodness, open-hearted simplicity. Many of the worldly characters he encounters mistakenly assume that he lacks intelligence and insight. And I was like, maybe that's Iggy Pop, right? Like maybe that's where they got that from, right? The fact that the guy is running around mutilating himself and like
smearing himself with peanut butter, and
smearing himself with peanut butter and doing whatever else he's doing. But really, maybe the guy is, quite smart and has lots of insight. And where he goes in his solo career, I mean, he's got an insane amount of albums, right?
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, they're not all listenable. Like, there's very few that are listenable, because I tried, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, every Iggy Pop album is great, right? Like, I listened to Lust for Life. I'm like, fantastic, let's keep going. Like, this is awesome, right? And then I got to like album 3 when David Bowie's no longer there, and I'm like,
boom, and a wall.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Like that's
Stooges
about the end of
and
this.
first 2 solo albums, and then it's hard afterwards.
Yeah, and then it's a tough listen, right? So I'm like, maybe he didn't have, that much insight and intelligence that way, but the fact that David Bowie got him going is probably, I don't know if he ever would have done this by himself, right? It kind of was like David Bowie gave him the push, and then he was like, okay, great, I'll take it from here. and then he made a name for himself, and the rest is history, right? So,
And then you look at the longevity. I mean, he has outlived everyone,
all those guys.
all of them.
Yeah, yeah, and probably did more drugs or as
Exactly.
many drugs as them, right? Like, but just a cool cat too, right? Like I've seen lots of interviews with him, and he's a very interesting guy in an interview. He's pretty real though too, and that's also neat to see. But you know, we talked about Mike Patton's like solo album, his first solo album, and something that you thought what you were gonna get, and I guess this is again another 180 of what you thought you were gonna get, and you know. With Mike Patton, you did not get Faith No More. You did not get a Faith No More solo record. You got sounds in a hotel room, right? That were just random. This one, you thought you were getting that, but really you got this kind of campy, schmaltzy, deadpan, sarcastic, dark album that basically got helped out by one of the best musicians of that time, and probably of all time.
Definitely.
And there you go. We'll send you on your way, and you're good for life now, right? So, yeah, just an interesting story with that too. But you were going back to The Passenger, Dane. I was thinking about The Passenger. There was, I don't know if you guys, the Batman Forever soundtrack. You remember the?
Yeah,
Batman Forever
we had
soundtrack?
talked about that
I
too.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah?
Seal?
There's a Michael Hutchins. Yeah, it's that song's
Okay,
on there.
so
Seal's
yeah,
on
okay.
there. But there's a Michael Hutchins version
No
of
way.
The Passenger on
Brilliant.
Batman Forever soundtrack, and it's
I bet.
fantastic. But it's not on Spotify. It's not on anything. You got to YouTube it. But it doesn't sound really anything like the original.
It's
but
the same groove. It's just all
Yeah.
the instruments are simplified, and it's more of like a guitar, or sorry, like a bass and a drum drone.
I'll have to check that out.
yeah,
with vocals.
It's worth a listen though, because I
it's
like
killer.
the original, but I think that version is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I bought that CD when that movie first came out, and yeah, it's so damn good.
It was good. There was a bunch of songs on there too. There was an Offspring song on there that I liked.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge Offspring fan. There was a bunch of songs on that
Interesting.
album, but I
Solid
can't find.
offering.
I don't know what it is with soundtracks on Spotify. I have a tough time finding full soundtracks.
Yeah.
The movie.
I don't know. There must be some kind of copyright
copyrights
thing.
with the movie companies.
Maybe it's on Apple or something.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
maybe. But anyways, I think that's all I needed to say about David Bowie, the idiot. I'm just checking my notes, but
I got a question for you.
it's
Okay, so with
Yeah.
everything that you said, like, yeah, okay, so Iggy Pop is like, he is Iggy Pop. Like, there's no mistaking who that guy is. But it seems as though he was just a conduit for David Bowie in this, like, not only this album, but this period of time. Like, do you think he could have just switched out any kind of like burnt out punk rocker who was looking for like a new jam kind of thing, and like you would have gotten the same result? Because like it sounds like David Bowie was all over this album, and like you can almost sometimes mistake Iggy Pop for David Bowie when he's singing. So like, do you think you could have just switched out anyone and gotten more or less the same result?
I don't
It
think
needed to
so.
be Iggy
It's,
Pop.
You know, Iggy, it had to be. He was so unique. Like, he could stand out. His vocals could sound, his vocals and his flow, and just feel behind it. I couldn't picture anybody else doing that, right?
Right. Because I almost
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I'd have to agree with that, because I thought about it for a second there, and I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, it was just a kind of ripe for the picking at that time too, right? Like, it felt like all of those pieces came together, and coming from what Iggy Pop came from, it's almost like, you know, David Bowie's just kind of presenting this new like person to you, right? It's just like, here you go. This is who you thought this was, but this is who this really is now, right? Like, he's kind of like under my tutelage,
Right.
and
Right.
here you go, right? Like, this is what he does. But I just think those, like, that whole campy deadpan side of him, that's what makes this album, right? That Iggy Pop side is what makes this album. And I'm sure David Bowie told him to probably sing like that, but it works, right? Like, and I don't know of anybody else at that time that would have fallen into that role perfectly.
I got two for
like
you,
that.
possibly, maybe. I'm gonna trip you out. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
First one was like I thought of it right away, like Nick Cave. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nick Cave would have been great on
Second,
that album. Yes.
Neil Diamond.
Yeah. Neil Diamond would have been good on there too.
Oh.
It's the same kind of, you know what?
No?
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I can see
no.
that. I can see it.
Just picturing Neil Diamond and David Bowie in Berlin on Smack.
I'm
recording
saying
this
is
and
the
going
beginning
night.
of the video game, and there's three bodies bouncing up and down, and you can pick whoever you want. And there's Iggy Pop, there's Neil Diamond, and there's Nick Cave. And like, would you be able to?
Without hearing the idiot, I probably would have just picked Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
If I was like, oh, sweet Iggy Pop. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to click that.
Iggy
But I can
Pop's
see
the only
where you're
one
coming
that could
from.
beat the last boss. So
Exactly. Exactly. That's right. No, I can see where you're coming from with Neil Diamond because it's kind of that same. Again, it's that campy side, though, I think, more than anything, right? Like, he can't do the deadpan, or maybe Neil Diamond can, but I can see where you're coming from on that, yes. But I think Nick Cave would have been even, you know, if I had to pick somebody else other than, maybe he'd be my number 2, because that's a good pick on that, because...
well, maybe Lust for Life, I guess, but not the idiot.
Probably not. But the strange thoughts that were going through my mind when I listened to it today.
Oh yeah, it's like the What If. You remember those comics? You remember the What If comics?
Like the Choose Your Own Adventure?
No, like it was like, maybe it wasn't called What If. It was those like Spider-Man comics, like What If Spider-Man did this?
Alternate universe things.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
alternate universe when we were kids. It was like, yeah, what if this happened?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, right? Like, what if, you know, Geddy Lee produced Master of Puppets? It'd be like one
Exactly.
of those kind of thing, right? Like,
Boom, 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 boom. At least
That was a great Neil Peart.
going from recording Neil Peart to recording Lars.
yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Lars? Stop it. Play it right.
We gotta have more lyrics about spaceman and
More spaceman and
medieval
trees
stuff.
and wooded
Basements
elves and
in Canada.
basement.
Oh boy.
Yeah. There you go. Iggy Pop the Idiot. Thanks. Thanks for letting me
Awesome.
talk about it. It's
Was that a
Love it.
release? Was
It's
that
a
2
good
years
one,
in the
so-
making? Do you feel
kinda. Yeah, kind of. It was just like, who wants to hear me talk about the Idiot for 32 minutes? So thank you guys for letting me for being the sounding board on that, because it's, I don't know what it is about that album. It's got a special place for me now, and it's good to talk about it and just kind of, because again, when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't even know why I like this album. Like, what do I like about this album? You know what I mean? It's one of those, but there's lots. So
very cool?
Yeah.